And starting off the news this week, we get to bash on some Bungie friends. Marathon gets a second chance. Bungie releases the first PvE mode. Bungie has revealed Vault Breaker, Marathon's first ever PvE mode, as part of its update 1.15. Unlike the core extraction shooter experience, Vault Breaker removes rival player squads and lets players focus entirely on AI enemies, exploration, puzzles, and progression. The mode supports solo, duos, and 3-player co-op and takes place inside the Cryo Archive. This is Bungie's biggest attempt yet to win over players who liked Marathon's world but weren't interested in the hardcore PvPvE gameplay. What do you think? W or L, dude?
I think this is an L. I mean, first of all, my thing is, like, we talked about this during the release of Marathon, right? They needed something to bring in the casual players, right? That they were looking at Arc Raiders and they were saying, how do we make an Arc Raiders? And they went full hardcore, not realizing that Arc Raiders wasn't just for hardcore players. Like, the reason why Arc Raiders hit the numbers that it did
It's
was
because it
because
wasn't
it
a
was a
Tarkov.
it was a game for everybody. Everybody could go in Arc Raiders and have fun. Even if you went in there and got blasted by someone like that was playing hardcore, right? You still had fun.
Yeah.
And Bungie failed to capture that. They made a game that was strictly like a PvP game. And then they were scratching their heads wondering why all the casual players didn't come over from Arc Raiders. Well, that's because you didn't have anything for casual players.
Oh,
So
we
now
even
that
said
we're
it. If we were looking to play, a hardcore FPS extraction shooter, we'd be playing Tarkov.
yeah,
We didn't want
exactly.
to play Tarkov.
And although Bungie did make like Marathon, I've said this many times, everyone that I've talked to that has played Marathon has said it's a good game. Um, but that being said, it's not a game for casual players. And that's where they lost everybody. So for them to make a hardcore game and expect casuals to come over and play, I think was just a fever dream. My thing is, a um if you wanted to make a PvE game, which is where it looks like they're kind of transitioning Marathon to, because and we'll get into a little bit later. This is not a permanent uh feature of the game. They're gonna take it out, listen to player feedback, refine it, and then they'll think about making it a permanent feature. So it looks almost like Marathon's transitioning to a PvE game. And from the looks of it, it's done pretty well. Their Steam numbers are up. But my thing is, why did you get rid of Destiny to just make another PvE game?
Well, Destiny
That's
was on its way out. They didn't want to push the IP.
but
Destiny had
why
run its
not?
course.
But why not? Marathon was never supposed to be a a main game for Bungie, right? Marathon was supposed to pick up the PvP side of Destiny that Destiny was losing. Destiny was losing their PvP um, players. Destiny stopped catering to the PvP side of Destiny, or Bungie stopped catering to the PvP side of Destiny. They were solely focusing on the PvE in the world just for it to shut down. And now you're trying to do the opposite to Marathon.
Well,
Instead of
no,
trying to capture the PvP players from Destiny, you're now trying to capture the PvE players that Destiny once had versus just keeping Destiny up, keeping it
Pat,
running.
Destiny was only supposed to be a 10-year long game, and it's reached that. They didn't have expectations to push it further than that. They never have. They've always said that Destiny is going to be the next 10-year long game for Bungie. And it
which
has
is
been.
cool, which is cool. But I mean, if you look at Destiny's numbers compared to Marathon, how can you sit there and say it was a good idea to shut down Destiny which was still bringing in more, although the numbers were dwindling. They were dwindling because one, they stopped putting out good content for the game. The last expansion that they came out for Destiny 2 was the Star Wars expansion that nobody really even liked.
Yeah.
So if they would have continued to pour content into Destiny 2, despite what they said their plan was, plans change all the fucking time. If you've got an IP that has some life in it, instead of squashing it and putting it into Marathon, which didn't work out like Sony thought it would, you could have kept Destiny 2 alive, poured more content into it, and still kept a PvE game while still focusing on Marathon as a PvP game, knowing that it's not going to bring in the numbers that Arc Raiders is going to bring in, right?
I I think that I think Sony said that uh Destiny's done and you're going to do Marathon. I don't think
Mm.
they had a choice. I,
No, I
I
agree.
honestly don't think that they had a choice. I think Sony said you're going to do Marathon and
I
Destiny
agree.
is going bye-bye. You
I
said you
agree.
did 10 years for it, it's over.
I agree, and I think it's a stupid call from Destiny because all they had to do was just keep Destiny alive, and you would have had a PvE game instead of having to pour resources into Marathon to make it something that you didn't want to make it into.
I think if they were going to run both, they could have run Destiny as their PvE game and then um Marathon as their PvP game, and then they could have had like PvE or PvP influences, so like Destiny has Trials of Osiris, right? Or and the Marathon gets this Vault thing, right?
Mm,
Vault Breaker.
hmm
I think like that gives it a PvE side. I think they that would have
Well,
run really well in
when
tandem. I think you're right. I think it's a bad decision that they did this, but I I understand why it's being done.
when you play the vaults in Destiny, that's up to 3 players, right?
Oh no. No, you could have like five.
It's up to 5.
Yeah, when
Okay.
when I played, you could have like a fire team of like
It's
well, no, you could have a fire team of no. In the raids you could do five. Yeah.
okay. It's been a long time since I played Destiny, so I wasn't sure. Um,
As you can tell,
but
me too. I can't remember either. Maybe it's different
yeah.
on two because I didn't really play much of two, but on one I
Mhm.
think you could do five. Either that or
Okay.
it was three. I can't remember. I ran so many freaking dungeons. It's not even funny.
hmm Yeah. So how does Vault Breakers work? Instead of extracting loot like the normal game mode, players collect vault data to permanently improve future runs. The mode has a roguelite progression system, meaning every run helps you become stronger over time. Players begin each run with a preset or sponsored kits rather than risking their own gear, pretty similar to like Arc Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Bungie says that the mode is currently experimental and is only available for a limited time while it gathers player feedback before its wider rollout in Season 3. Yeah.
Mm.
Like I said, it just sounds like they're trying to bring in casual players now, and one, I feel like it's too late. I feel like
Yes, I agree. It
if
definitely feels like it's too late.
this should have been a feature that was rolled out immediately
Yeah, day
instead of
one.
waiting 6 months after launch when the casual players that have already moved on from Arc Raiders have already moved on to another game.
Yeah, like many other games at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I my problem is where Marathon started out as a single player first person shooter. I remember playing it, and it was so much fun to play as a kid. But like, why wouldn't you have a either single player or just a PVE for the people that want to play Marathon like the way Marathon used to be? Like that's what you're leaning. Marathon is so deep seated in lore that people are still deciphering it 30 years after this game has already been published and loved.
hmm
Why would you take such a cherished franchise and do something completely different with it? You wouldn't do that with like God of War. They're not doing something completely different with Faye.
Well, maybe. There was talks about having a live service God of War game, pretty similar to the Last of Us game,
Yeah, but it didn't
right?
happen.
No, it didn't happen, and I think that's because like it's very similar to like what's going on with this, right? Sony wanted live service games. Every game that they wanted to come out with had to be a live service game, and I think that this was what this was. This was, you know, Sony going to Bungie saying, "Hey, we paid $3 billion from you. We need a live service game." And instead of making a solo game named Marathon, they were like, "Hey, why don't we turn this into a live service PvP VE extraction shooter?" Oh, great idea, you know. Um, and I think it shot him in the foot.
Yeah, but so the extraction shooter portion of it themes really well with Marathon. I think that's why the IP drew such attention from Sony,
Well, that's
was
another
because
thing
it
too.
definitely breeds into that extraction shooter atmosphere.
Yeah, that's another thing too, Sternsey, is this is also a 30-year-old IP,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is the a lot of the people that Sony wants people on this game and they want them on the game 24/7. The only people that have that kind of time are not the 30 or 40-year-olds that grew up with the original Marathon. These 10 to 15 to, or even 20-year-olds, they don't know anything about Marathon. They didn't grow up with any of this shit. Like none of that means anything to them.
Yeah, I still think you're losing out on a large portion of the audience. Like you said, I think you've missed the expiration date on this by a long shot. And the fact that it's not even a permanent edition, it's a hey, we're gonna try to do this PvE thing. Like you should have started with the PvE thing, and then you could
Mm-hmm.
have rolled it back later or changed it later. Why why
1000%.
why did you do this? You say you wanted the numbers of a casual slash hardcore game, but you only put the hardcore portions to your game and are wondering why.
Mm-hmm.
It,
No,
it it's dumb.
yep. Yeah, they fucked up.
Again,
Uh, Yeah, you only kept hardcore aspects in your game and then wondered why there's no casual players coming up to your game. Well, because as a dad and as someone that works full time, I don't want to spend the only 2 or 3 hours a week that I have in gaming sweating it out just to have some guy or some kid who's able to put 70 hours into this fucking shoot me from across the map and I just lost the hour of progress that I just made. It's
mm,
not worth it to me. I don't
no,
want to deal with that. I
exactly.
deal with enough stress at work. I don't want to have to come home on my video game and deal with stress.
Hey,
And
blood pressure.
exactly, right? Exactly. And so I feel like you take like keeping this and holding it for 6 months only alienated your casual players. And meanwhile, you're mad that none of your casual players are showing up. Well,
Yeah.
that's why.
And I mean, the buzz really isn't even there. I haven't really seen since they dropped their new update. I haven't really seen much. I mean, I've seen more of it over the last couple of days than I have over the last like 2 or 3 weeks.
Hmm.
But I mean, it definitely hasn't really done much for it.
It's raised it. I think uh, at the time, I believe the number on the Steam chart was like an average of like 1.5 thousand players within a 24-hour period, and now it's up to like 10,000. So it was 15,000 and then it dropped down to 10. So it did boost up Marathon, you know. Was it the numbers that Sony was expecting or hoping for? Fuck no. That's we went over that last episode, this unlimited growth bullshit. Boost Frava. Boost
Before you end
Frava.
up having a coronary, let me get into how it was received. So, initial player feedback was largely positive. Yes, we've seen that. Many players say Vault Breakers offers a much more relaxed way to experience Marathon's world. Steam player counts rapidly tripled following the mode's release. It's the game's biggest spike in months. However, many players also believe PvE should have been a part of the game at launch rather than arriving months later, as me and Pat you know, boastfully said in so many more words. Um, is Vaultbreaker enough to save Marathon, or has it arrived too late? It has.
I
Pat
think
and I
it's
said,
arrived.
we both said it has arrived
Hmm.
way too late.
I think it's too late. I don't think I think Marathon is what it is, and like I said, I think it's a shame that Bungie essentially shut down Destiny 2 to focus on Marathon when they had a game that was pulling bigger numbers than Marathon.
I
Just
think that
because,
they thought that they were hurting because they were split, and I think what they have is they have executed this IP poorly.
yeah, and I think I don't, and honestly I don't think it was split for a bad reason. You had very hardcore players that would play Marathon, and then you had more relaxed players that would get together with a group of friends and just have a casual gaming session, raiding or going about and doing bullshit in Destiny 2. I don't think that's splitting your players at all. I think Sony saw that as splitting the players because they
No,
only see numbers.
I think it was splitting their team, not so
Well,
much
that
splitting
too.
players.
I know that too. But that being said, I also think they saw it as splitting players because Sony doesn't see casual and hardcore players. They only see
The number,
two 20,000 players, right?
yeah. And
So
honestly,
I
I think the popularity increase that it got was just people revisiting the game again. I
probably
don't even think it was
checking
new
it out.
people. I mean,
Probably not.
when I first heard about Vault Breaker, I was intrigued and I thought about checking it out, but I still don't want to. Once I found out that it's a temporary thing, like it would be like if you had to buy Fortnite, right? Because they
Mm,
came out with the TMNT pack.
mm.
If I had to buy Fortnite just to buy a skin, if I have to buy Marathon just to play something that's going to happen for a limited time and
Well, that's what I'm
possibly
saying.
come back later, like why would I?
Who who wants to spend $40 on on a game mode, which is essentially what you're
On a
doing when
potential
you're
game mode, it's not
buying.
even a positive thing.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it's just all bad.
I agree, but also what's bad, more bad news. Uh, Joey Ziegler has officially left Bungie.
Mm.
This is Marathon's game director, Joey Ziegler. He has officially announced that he is leaving Bungie. Ziegler announced that he was leaving to pursue, quote, something new somewheres else, end quote. He has not yet announced where he's going next, but Bungie has confirmed development will continue under Chaffee the third. That's what a fucking
Del
name. Alongside,
Chefe.
yeah, alongside creative director Julia Nardin. And like just so you know, Joey Ziegler has only been in that game director seat for about 8 months, so not a very long tenure as game director,
Yeah.
which it was is eyebrow raising. For you to not only go through one game director but two game directors in under a year, that's that does not paint a good picture for Bungie
No, it
or
definitely
Marathon
doesn't
as a
look
whole.
safe over at Bungie. Not if they're rotating through game directors this much. I
Hmm.
mean, it could be that they something has come across their plate,
Hmm.
because Sony big name, Bungie big name, and not to mention Bungie's had difficulties since 4 or 5 years ago. They've been fighting to stay alive for about 5 years now, and that trying to dig something out of the ditches while you're trying to make something that's going to make you know put smiles on people's faces. That's a high stress atmosphere. And I can almost understand why they're going through so many game directors so quickly. I mean, that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pressure. And
Hmm.
maybe only given 8 months is like what you need to look at now, because this is I think that there's a lot of push from Sony, and it's a really or at least that's the message that I'm getting, is that Sony's pushing so hard that these game directors are just like, well, I could do this better somewhere else. So why did he leave? Ziegler is not publicly given specific reason for his departure. His exit comes just weeks after major Bungie layoffs, Destiny 2 supporting winding down, Marathon struggling to maintain its player base. While there's no evidence his departure was directly related to those events, the timing has fueled speculation about Bungie's future. Bungie says Marathon remains in good hands, but losing a game director just months after launch is never an ideal look.
Exactly. And that's what not just one game director, but two. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
and it's full. I mean, like we said, Bungie's full of shit that's just been going wrong. So yeah, no, I
mhm.
get it.
Yeah, Marathon has just not been a healthy IP, so
Hmm.
we'll see. So, what does this mean for Bungie? Bungie is betting heavily on Marathon as a long-term franchise, which doesn't look great. Vault Breaker shows that the studio is willing to make major changes based on community feedback. At the same time, though, leadership changes and recent layoffs create uncertainty about the game's long-term direction. The next few updates will likely determine whether Marathon becomes Bungie's next success or another live service cautionary tale. And I believe it's going to be the latter rather than the former. Or I'm sorry, the former rather than the latter, because, I mean, look at all the data. Unless Bungie puts out a really, really good update to the game that just flips extraction shooters on its head, which I don't see it happening, then Marathon is just going to be treading, or yeah, it's just going to be treading water. And I think every time Sony puts out some kind of idea or does something, it's always bit them in the ass, as we'll talk about later in the episode.
Yeah, I think, yeah, dude, you're not wrong. This has definitely come around, and it's too little, too late. I think that they started this off on a bad foot. And I was just sitting here and I'm thinking about their marketing strategy too. And I was thinking about some of the ads that I've seen run through YouTube or Twitch for Marathon, and also Destiny. And I was thinking back, and it's like the they're almost shot for shot in some cases, running through my memory. I could be very wrong, but they're like, you get a slow walk, a pan of the feet, and then gun shooting, and then a zoom to the face, and then
Well,
the other guy gets shot in slow motion, and like that's Destiny and Marathon all rolled into one. Like, what, you got to change something. You
I mean,
want to step
if
away from Destiny, but you're
if
doing the same
Bungie
shit.
if Bungie's gonna steal art from their community, then why not steal art from themselves, right?
Themselves. Oh, it's too damn good, dude. Yeah, you're not
I mean,
wrong. I
it
was just
only
like,
makes
it just
sense.
came to me too. I'm sitting here and I'm like, maybe they need to change what they're doing with their marketing. And then I'm thinking back to some of those ads, and I'm like, holy
No,
fuck, they're identical.
they just made a game that nobody wants to fucking play.
Yeah.
I've said this
Not
before.
nobody. It's pushed a
Okay,
little bit.
10,000 people want to play. All right, out of a game that has trillions, or an industry that has trillions of customers.
Yeah.
That being said, not trillions, like millions. There's not even a trillion people on Earth. Anyway, I said this before. If Bungie would focus on a sci-fi action first-person shooter like they did with Halo, they would have a hit. Look at how many people got onto Halo Legacy. Now, I've heard nothing but bad things about Halo Legacy. Everyone says like you should either wait for it to go on a steep sale, or just, if you've played the Halo games before, don't play them. Like, don't buy Halo Legacy, because it essentially doesn't add anything, and it's not worth $50.
Yeah,
There's clearly a market for that type of game. Why not just focus? Like, that's the thing.
that was what
Sony,
Marathon was. That's my problem.
but that's my thing. Sony has marketed themselves on first-person exclusives, or single-player exclusives, right? Why not just stick with that? That's literally what sold your PlayStation 4. That's literally what sold your PlayStation 5. That's probably what's going to sell your PlayStation 6. Why stray away from that? That's the only reason why you've beaten Xbox. That's the only reason why Nintendo is beating you. Why stay away from that? You could have put all that money into Marathon, into a game that your players actually fucking want. And you would have seen nothing but profits. People would have kept their job, but instead you decided to not listen to any of your customers. You decided to listen to the shareholders, and now you're blaming Bungie for not performing correctly. Boost Frava. Boost Frava.
Boost Frava.
Yeah.